On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 3, and this bill having received requisite constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 8th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute for Senate Bill 175.
Read the caption.
House Bill 175 by Senator Black of the 8th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 11 of Title 4 of the OCGA relating to general provisions relating to animal protection so as to require inspection of certain animals entering into the state, to provide for related matters and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 175, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 11 of Title 4 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions relative to animal protection so as to require inspection of certain animals entering into the state, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 8th.
This is the same bill we passed out earlier. The House just made a couple of changes in it to be obstinate. They did a little redundancy by putting in right after we said bring into the state, they said and import. And then they tried to put a little southern charm in there by taking out a may and put in you can if you would like to. If there's any questions, I'll entertain them. Otherwise, I yield and ask for your favorable consideration.
That's all. That's all. The senator has moved that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 175. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48 and the nays are 2, and this bill having received requisite constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Senator from the 53rd is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 72.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 72 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled, an act to amend Title 16 of the OCGA relating to crimes and offenses so as to provide a measure of equivalency in punishment of crimes committed against police dogs in the performance of their official duties as to that of peace officers, to provide for a short title, to provide for related matters, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House sub to Senate Bill 72, a bill to be entitled, an act to amend Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to crimes and offenses so as to change the provisions relating to the relationship between relatives which can constitute incest, to change the offenses of harassing phone calls to the offense of harassing communication, to provide for penalties, to provide for venue, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from 53rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is Senate Bill 72, which is the police dog bill that you've supported overwhelmingly here a few weeks ago. The House has added language regarding crimes against harassing phone calls, harassing communications, and other types of electronic communications to modernize the definitions. Mr. President, I'd be glad to answer any questions. I yield the word.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th for a question.
Senator, will you yield?
Yeah, absolutely.
Senator, is the underlying bill the crimes against the elderly?
I don't believe so. The underlying bill is the police dog bill that we passed earlier.
Will you further yield?
Yes.
Is the inclusion of the chairman of judiciary's language in there about the elderly?
I don't think so.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Are you?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Senators yielded. The senators move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 72. All of those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. We're glad to have Caesar Mitchell with us today with the City Council. Thank you very much, President. Appreciate that. Good to have you visiting today. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 43 and the nays are 6. And this bill, having received the constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Senator from the 19th is recognized.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House amendment to the Senate substitute to HB 106.
HB 106, read the caption.
House Bill 106 by Representative Roberts of the 155th and others, a bill to be entitled, an act to amend Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to highways and bridges and ferries so as to revise what constitutes part of the state highway system, to provide for the appropriation of funds to the Department of Transportation, to amend Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, and for other purposes. Mr. President. The House 155th offers the following amendment. Amend Senate substitute to HB 106 by deleting the lines 1 through 459 and inserting in lieu thereof the following, to amend Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to venue and taxation so as to provide for limitation of the joint county and municipal sales and use tax on motor fuel, to provide for a state fee on the rental of a hotel room or motel room, to provide for an additional transportation special purpose local option sales tax to use by counties, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes the Distinguished Transportation Committee Chairman, Senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is some cleanup language on 170 that we put on the T-SPLOS bill that passed out of here, 106. It deals just with T-SPLOS as well as one other item. If you Section 1, this was an issue we had with one consolidated government, and it fixed in Columbus, Georgia. It fixes their problem with their SPLOS. They have a consolidated government, so they're treated somewhat differently. On page 3, we changed the date that the T-SPLOS could be implemented from 2015 to 2016, just to give them some time to prepare for that. There was a Scribner's error on page 4 dealing with municipalities that the GMA and ACCG suggested that we needed to change. And the final change in the bill that we passed regarding hotels and motels, we changed the definition so that an innkeeper, by definition, would be only someone who was renting hotel and motel rooms, not all the other cottages and things like that.
You have a couple questions.
Okay.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 31st for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the Senator yield?
Yes, I do.
Senator, have we got a physical note on this bill?
We don't have a physical note on the bill. It's the T-SPLOS bill.
It seems to me that
this is money that's raised by a referendum in a county.
It seems to me that Section 3 is the similar language to what we had in House Bill 170 dealing with taxing hotels and motels. We didn't have an adequate physical note on that bill.
I'm sorry, if you'll tell me where you are.
Section 3 of the bill.
Section 3 is just dealing with a definition of what a innkeeper is.
Okay. So you just told me that this bill excluded certain cabins and so forth.
Yes.
That was included in House Bill 170.
That's true.
So there, if I'm looking at the wrong section, which section should I be looking at?
That would be in the definition where in 170 we that's not in this bill. We're not changing that hotels and motels are taxed. We're just changing the definition of what an innkeeper is, which eliminates anything but a hotel or motel room.
You further yield?
I do.
So House Bill 170 included all hotels and motels and
right.
cabins and anything other than an extended
state parks, etc.
And this one has a smaller group of people that it
does
taxes. So the language that was in House Bill 170 required a physical note by our Senate rule.
Right.
I believe that reading Senate Rule, I believe it's 3-1.4, that we've talked about many times. We've been very loose with that. But once a measure has a physical note attached to it, then that measure has to always have a physical note attached to it. Do we have a physical note for this bill?
I don't have a physical note. I had a physical note with 106 when I sent it to the House. I don't have a physical note when it came back.
Thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes Senator from 39th. No, the senator from 39th waves off. No questions. Is this a replay? Chair recognizes Senator from 31st.
Mr. President, it may be a replay. I am pleading with you that this body would act responsibly and not pass or amend the tax laws of the state of this Georgia in a manner that we don't even know what we're doing. Now, this measure that's included in this bill had a fabricated fiscal note 2 nights ago at 11:41 when we passed this bill in the wee hours of the night, passed this language. Now the language is in another bill. The bill's sponsor just stated that it was all the same language with a change in the definition, narrowing the scope. I believe that our Senate rules and the official code of Georgia require a physical note on this measure. And I would ask for us to table this bill or to obtain a physical note. It looks like we got 2 hours and 47 minutes. 3 hours 47. I'm certain that the Department of Audits and OPB is sitting over there.
let me ask this question. Can you articulate to me why you think this has a fiscal impact?
The rules say that
No. I'm saying this right here. Can you articulate to me where this has a fiscal impact to the state?
Section 3. That's a $5 a night tax on hotels and motels.
That's already been passed by the Senate. This is cleanup language dealing with that issue.
But the rules say, for the protection of Georgia's taxpayers, that we don't adopt measures that have significant fiscal impact without a fiscal note. And it goes on to say that once a measure has a fiscal note, any amendment thereto must have a fiscal note attached to it.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling you, pleading with you once again for the Senate to act responsibly in its actions.
I don't. No, obviously, you and I see things differently on this issue. I mean,
clearly, I'm advocating for the taxpayers of Georgia.
Well, I mean, I would say to you that the way I am interpreting this bill is that this is primarily a issue that is impacting local governments and is predominantly a fix for Columbus, and also cleanup language that does not reflect an increase any different than what we took up the other day. Chair recognizes Senator 28.
Mr.
What
President.
purpose you rise?
Point of clarification, Mr. President, if I may.
State your inquiry.
The inquiry is it not correct that in House Bill 170, the original language defined innkeeper on lines 619 and 620 to be any person subject to taxation under this article for the furnishing for value of any public rooms, lodgings, or accommodations. This change would significantly reduce the number of facilities, rooms, or things subject to the tax. Now, for the people of Georgia, that may be a good thing, but for the consideration of this Senate, I request that we get that fiscal note that addresses this impact to the revenues of the state of Georgia.
The senator has moved that the Senate agree to the House amendment to the Senate substitute to HB 106. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 27th will stand by. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 44 and the nays are 3, and this bill, MC Rex constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 27th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate recede from its amendment to HB 246.
Read the caption.
House Bill 246 by Representative Knight of the 130th and others, a bill to be entitled, an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to accountants so as to provide for powers and actions granted to licensing boards to revise and add definitions to provide that the State Board of Accountancy is administratively attached to the State Accounting Office, to change provisions related to foreign registered accountants, to change standard approved, to provide for confidentiality of certain information, to amend Chapter 5B of Title 50 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to the State Accounting Office so as to remove the Board of Accountancy to its division of the State Accounting Office, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting law, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senator McCune the 29th Senator McCune the 29th offers the following amendment to amend House Bill 246 by replacing 1975 with 1975 period at the end of line 212 and deleting lines 213 and 16. Mr. President, Senator McCune the 29th offers the second amendment amending House Bill 246 by replacing line 24 with the following: refuse to certify an applicant where it finds it clear and convincing. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 27th.
Fellow senators, we're just asking that the accountants of this state have the same rights that every other licensing board in this state has, and that is why we are rescinding our position and accepting what the House has given us. So if there's any questions, I will yield the well.
There are no questions, Senator. The Senator has moved that we recede from its amendment to HB 246. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. And Secretary will unlock the machine.
This is an agreement, and they'll have a house. Yes, sir. The next one, Rich, agreed to the house. SB 131. Agreed to House served to SB 131.
On the motion, the yeas are 45 and the nays are 1, and the Senate has receded from the Senate amendments. Chair recognizes Senator from the 30th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 131.
Senate Bill 131 by Senator Dugan of the 30th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 1 of Title 37 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to powers and duties of the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disability, so as to provide for the certification rather than licensing of crisis stabilization units, to provide for policies and procedures, to remove certain provisions relating to promulgation of rules and regulations, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House Committee on Health and Human Services offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 131, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 1 of Title 37 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to powers and duties of the Department of Behavioral Health and Human Disability, so as to provide for the certification rather than licensing of crisis stabilization units, to provide for policies and procedures, to remove certain provisions relating to promulgation of rules and regulations, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 30th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is DBHDD, CSUs. What we said, if you're going to make a policy change under DBHDD, that you have to post the change on their website within 45 days, and it has to stay on the website for 6 months. That's the only change. Subject to your questions. No questions? Thank you. I yield the well.
Senators move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 131. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 47, the nays are 0, and the Senate has agreed to the House substitute. Chair recognizes Senator from the 54th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute on Senate Bill 135.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 135 by Senator Bethel of the 54th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 6 of Title 15 of the OCGA, relating to the clerks of Superior Court, so as to provide for the protection and disclosure of records held by the clerk of Superior Court, to provide for procedure for disclosure, to provide for penalties and to change provisions relating to backup records, to provide for related matters and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House Committee on Judiciary offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 135, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 9-11-4.1 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to certified process servers and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 54th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I ask your favorable consideration of the House substitute on Senate Bill 135. Senate Bill 135, we passed out 50-0. That is basically part 2. That includes the 31st and the 28th, just in case you're keeping score at home. It is added part 1, which is the elimination of the sunset provisions for certified process servers. I will also note, though we had a unanimous vote, there was some concern in the Senate concerning the penalty language for these violations. That was just totally removed, and we would fall back on the existing statutory language for misappropriation of records belonging to a clerk's office. Mr. President, I yield for questions. Otherwise, I ask favorable consideration and yield the well. I was just checking.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 31st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I yield.
Are you trying to taunt the senator from the 31st and the 28th, or
I just wanted you to
for those comments?
I know how busy you are looking at the rules.
I got the rules.
And I wanted to make sure that while you were looking at the rules, you didn't question what you voted the first time on this bill. Thank you, Senator. I yield the well.
Senators move that we agree to the House substitute to SB 135. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 44, the nays are 0, and this bill MC Rex constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 51st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adopt the conference committee report on Senate Bill 4.
Read the caption.
Committee of Conference report on Senate Bill 4. The Committee of Conference on Senate Bill 4 recommends that both the Senate and House of Representatives recede from their positions and that the attached Committee of Conference substitute to Senate Bill 4 be adopted. Respectfully submitted, Senator Gooch of the 51st and others. Mr. President, Committee of Conference substitute to Senate Bill 4, a bill to be entitled An Act to Amend Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to local government and to provide for priority of certain liens regarding assessments for downtown development authorities, to provide for the use of surface transportation projects in urban redevelopment areas, to provide and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Senator from the 7th, Senator from the 7th. Don't let, I need you to approach. Will you read the caption? Chair recognizes Senator from 51st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, as you may recall, Senate Bill 4 earlier in the session dealt with the local governments investing in the major redevelopment projects in urban areas such as the Atlanta Beltline to take partner with and benefit from the private sector's financing options, expertise, and cost efficiencies. The only thing that the conference committee did today is added a part to further define where the Beltline project exists, and it added language to be located within the boundaries of a tax allocation district or within a half a mile on either side named. And that was language that was a compromise between the local governments and all of the public utility companies. They worked on this for about 2 weeks. We came to an agreement about midday today, and we added that language. The bill also includes language that was in Senate Bill 210, which was sponsored by the senator from the 6th, to ensure that property owners who incurred debt due to energy-efficient retrofits financed by municipal bonds must repay their debts in the same manner as property owners who incur liens. Language added by the House rewarding reimbursement of utility relocation costs was removed as part of the compromise. And we also added on Section 9 and 10 language dealing with MPOs and counties outside of Atlanta that could pick and choose their own MPOs. Mr. President, that's all the changes that were made by the conference committee, and I would urge your considerable consideration.
Chair recognizes Senator from 39th.
Will the senator yield?
I will.
I'm glad we have this bill back in a form that apparently can be supported. But if the senator yield, would you be able to clarify for me the issue about public utilities and what was the compromise that was reached on the payment of
the agreement? The agreement was they would further narrowly define where these projects were being constructed, and that they would not interfere with the public right-of-ways outside of that area. So it's basically strategically reduced the size of the footprint, so to speak, to where it would be totally inside of that area that's defined with the TAD districts.
There are no further questions, Senator.
Thank you.
No, there is a question. No, there's not a question. I'm sorry. Chair recognizes Senator from the 9th.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 7th.
From the 7th. Without objection, the senator from the 7th will be excused. The senator has moved that the Senate adopt the conference committee report on SB 4. SB 4. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary unlock the machine. On the adoption of the conference committee, the yeas are 46 and the nays are 1. And the conference committee has been adopted. Chair recognizes the senator from the 48th.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that the rules of the Senate be suspended to remove House Bill 650 from the general calendar and permit its immediate consideration before the Senate. This was the local bill that was defeated and reconsidered.
Is there objection? Without objection, we have that bill before us at this time. That's fine. Go get it. Yeah. It'll take just a second. Secretary will read.
Senate House Bill 650 by Representative Waits of the 60th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act providing for a new charter for the City of Atlanta, approved April 15, 1996, as amended so as to provide for public safety access assessments, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order, sir.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 39th.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, this is House Bill 650, 911 bill for the City of Atlanta. We are glad that the Senator from the 6th, the Atlanta City Hall, the mayor, and leadership have gotten together and reconciled any differences on this bill. I commend it to you and ask for your favorable consideration.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Granted, report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46, the nays are 2, and this bill, MC Rex Constitution majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 24th.
Mr. President, I ask that the Senate agree to the House substitute.
Read the caption, 76.
Senate Bill 76 by Senator Jackson of the 24th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-6-20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to obedience to traffic control devices so as to provide for a safe operation of a motorcycle or lightweight motor vehicle through an operative traffic control signal, to provide for short title, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House Committee on the Public Safety and Homeland Security offers the following substitute to House Senate Bill 76, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to motor vehicles so as to provide for definitions, to provide for safe operation of motorcycle or bicycle through an inoperative traffic control signal, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 24th.
okay? Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, Senate Bill 76 is that same good little old motorcycle bill that was here days and days ago. They put 2 or 3 little injections on it over there, and it made it a better bill. And one had to do with strobe lights and pathways where they were needed with the government. And the other was that the bicyclists or motorcyclists would have to show a preponderance of proof in case there was an accident at one of these stopping traffic light four-way stops. And that's it. If there's any
no further questions, Senator.
Thank you.
The Senator has moved. The Senate agreed to the House substitute to SB 76. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 25th will stand by. 25th. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 43 and the nays are 6, and the senators agree. Chair recognizes Senator from the 25th on 88.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitution of Senate Bill 88.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 88 by Senator Jones of the 25th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 34 of the OCGA relating to labor and industrial relations so as to provide for payment of wages by credit or payroll card, to change certain provisions relating to payment of wages by lawful money, checks, or credit transfer and selection of payment dates by employers, to require employers to offer employees certain choices and information relating to the payment of wages, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House Committee on Industry and Labor offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 88, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to industrial and labor relations so as to provide for the payment of wages by credit to a payroll card account, to provide for a definition to change certain provisions relating to payment of wages by lawful money, checks, or credit transfer and selection of payment dates by employers, to require employers to offer employees certain choices and information relating to the payment of wages, to provide for related matters, to provide for an effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator 25th. Speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to the House remove the definition of payroll card network because it was only mentioned in one part of the bill. So they removed that, and I'm fine with that, and appreciate your favorable consideration. Thank you.
The Senator has moved that we agree to the House substitute to SB 88. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 44 and the nays are 2. And this bill, having received the constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 21st.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute of Senate Bill 125.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 125 by Senator Beach of the 21st and others, a bill to be entitled, an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 10 of Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated related to state road and tollway authorities, so as to recognize the collection of tolls for the management of traffic flow, to amend Title 40 of the OCGA relating to motor vehicles, so as to provide for definitions, to provide for the installation of managed lane signs, barriers, or gates to prohibit entry or exit of a managed lane under certain circumstances, to authorize the development of a system of managed lanes, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House Committee on Transportation offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 125, a bill to be entitled, an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 10 of Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated related to the state road and tollway authority, so as to authorize for the collection of tolls for management of traffic flow, to provide for administrative fees for drivers, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 21st. Speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President and Senators. I bring before you the CERTA bill, Senate Bill 125. The House made 2 minor changes. In Section 1, they preserved the striking of acquire, but they did clarify that CERTA, GDOT, or a local government entity could cause a toll project to be constructed for new capacity. Now, a lot of local governments would not do that, but Gwinnett did try to do one about a year ago, and all this would do was they would enter into a contract with CERTA to be the tolling agent. The second change they made was Section 4, and the Senate, we deleted the definition of managed lane from the original bill because it listed HOVs. This version adds a narrow definition of managed lane by excluding HOV lanes from the definition in alignment with the Senate's concern for managed lanes. So with that, Mr. President, I'll yield the well if there's no questions and ask for your favorable consideration. Okay.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th for a question.
For the Senator Gill.
Yes.
Senator, is there any changes to the hotlines?
No, not so whatsoever. No, thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 56th for a question.
President, will Senator yield?
Yes.
Senator, you said that we narrowly changed how a managed lane was defined. Can you help me understand what that is?
It deals with value pricing, congestion value pricing. So when the congestion gets worse, to maintain that 55-mile-an-hour speed, the price will go up. And that's what was done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, I yield the well.
The senators move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 125. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 6th will stand by. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 44 and the nays are 4, and this bill, having received the constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 59.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 59 by Senator Hill of the 6th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 36 of the OCGA relating to local government and Title 50 of the OCGA relating to state government, so as to provide for partnership in public facilities and infrastructure act, to provide for related matters, to repeal, to provide for an effective date, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House substitute to Senate Bill 59 by a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to local government and Title 50 of the OCGA relating to state government, so as to provide for definitions, to provide for guidelines for projects, to create partnership with the Public Facilities and Infrastructure Act Guidelines Committee, and to provide for its membership and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 6th. Speak to his motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 59 was our public-private partnership bill. We made some extremely minor changes in the House. I'll point you to lines 96 and 97. We reworded, no substantive change there. Line 79, we made it so the members of this commission, 3 of them will be residing outside the metro Atlanta area. And then lines 469 through 471, we tweaked some of the language to be consistent with our Constitution in terms of the debt versus the leasing, et cetera. So if there's no questions, I will yield the well.
No questions, Senator. Chair recognizes Senator in the 46th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would point out that when we first considered this bill in the Senate, one of our concerns was these long-term leases have been used as a device to sort of get around our state's debt limits. I insisted at that time on an amendment that made those multi-year leases be counted against the debt limitations of the state so we could remain fiscally conservative. The change in this bill at lines 475 through lines 479 are not just a tweak. They take out that provision. They reference another statute which does not count that against the debt limit of the state. So this is not just a minor tweak. It is an elimination of the protection that we attempted to put in the Senate version. I'd urge you to vote against this bill since it is fiscally irresponsible. Mr. President, I will yield the well or yield to questions.
I'm sorry, there is a question. You just rather close the debate? That's fine. Chair recognizes Senator from the 6th. Close the debate.
Obviously, I have great respect for our leader and Senator from the 46th, but I was not aware that there was opposition to this, so I'm happy to go into more detail. All we did is our Constitution counts debt as debt, and leases constitutionally are not considered debt. So rather than have our law, which the leader put in as an amendment, say that we would count leases as debt, that would have been in conflict with the Constitution. So what we said is, and I will point you to the lines 469 through 471, subject to and comply with provisions of Code Section 5016-41, specifically including compliance with multi-year contract value authority adopted by the Georgia State Financing and Investment Commission for each fiscal year. Point being, GSFIC every year counts our lease obligations towards not our debt, but towards our obligations, and that's what the AAA bond rating, the bond rating agencies are looking at in terms of giving us a AAA bond rating. That's very important to me that we maintain that. It's also very important to the governor. He's been a great fiscal manager of our state, and by default, it's therefore very important to GSFIC to maintain those fiscal restraints. As I said when we were passing the bill, it's very important that we do look at our long-term debt, and that maybe there's a way to address this through law or through a constitutional amendment. But this vehicle that we have created to help our cities, counties, and state agencies come up with innovative capital and ideas to develop facilities of a public need, this was not the vehicle to put that severe of a constraint on this vehicle. And so I respect the senator from the 46th greatly. I agree with his desires to have fiscal constraints and fiscal responsibility, but I disagree with him that this change in the amendment will gut that idea that we will have fiscal restraint and conservatism. So I do ask that you vote for the bill just like you did on the way out of the Senate. It came back to us in a very slightly modified way, and I ask for your favorable consideration. Mr. President, I'll yield the well.
The senators move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 59. All of those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no, and the secretary will unlock the machine. '40th, please stand by. 40th, senator from the 40th. Chair recognizes senator from the 6th. What purpose you rise?
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that all the interested parties worked on this bill for 3 years and we finally came to a solution, and this is a solution that's going to help move Georgia forward?
Sure, the senator knows which he speaks. Better keep talking. Looking better now. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 40 and the nays are 7. This bill having received requisite constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes senator from the 40th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adopt the conference committee report on HB 520.
520, read the caption.
Committee of Conference report on House Bill 520. The Conference Committee on House Bill 520 recommends that both the Senate and the House of Representatives recede from their positions and that the attached Committee of Conference substitute to House Bill 520 be adopted. Respectfully submitted, Senator Miller of the 40th and others. Mr. President, a bill to be entitled an act to incorporate the City of La Vista Hills into DeKalb County to provide for a charter for the City of La Vista Hills and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes senator from the 40th. We'll be expecting the governor in about 5 to 10 minutes, maybe.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the two cities. The first one's La Vista Hills. The changes from when the conference committee report were Tucker took a Walmart into their city. They took a QT into their city and about 500 people. Those are the changes. I ask for your favorable consideration.
Actually, less than 5 minutes. No further questions. Chair recognizes senator from the 42nd.
Well, sort of. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to take a minute to get up here and just reflect on the fact that we've had, yet another session where we've devoted probably an inordinate amount of time to city issues in DeKalb and Fulton, and at the current juncture, we also have a proposal for a new city in Forsyth County, and it is my greatest wish, as someone who's done 3 years consumed in this General Assembly by cityhood issues in my home county, that we do take a hard look at the process that we currently are operating under for the creation of new cities before the movement spreads and sucks up even more of our counties, Forsyth, Henry, Cobb, and all of them. And so that's why I'm grateful that the Senate has supported the study committee. There's a corresponding one in the House by Jan Tankersley. They're opposed to new cities, but we also need to think about being able to work together in a regional fashion. And some of the most municipalized areas of our country, New York, New Jersey, Detroit, have the most municipal governments. We've been able, through large, efficient county governments, to keep our taxes low in the South. And so I'm grateful that we'll be taking a look at this process, because I know that all of us want to enable local control without creating higher taxes. And with that, Mr. President, I'll yield the ball.
The senator has moved that the Senate adopt the conference committee report on HB 520. All of those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. And the Secretary will unlock the machine. We are awaiting the governor's arrival. I'd like for all the senators to please come in, take your seats as we prepare the chamber for the governor's arrival. On the adoption of the conference committee report, the yeas are 36 and the nays are 8. And the Senate has adopted the conference committee report to House Bill 520. Senate will stand at ease as we wait for a moment as the governor is preparing his arrival. Mr. Sergeant at Arms. Thank you, Mr. Sergeant at Arms. Please escort our governor of the great state to the chamber at this time. Well, it is always a special time on the 40th day, and there's so many activities and things that go on in making this day filled with such tradition. And obviously, it's when all of us have done the hard work for 40 days, and it all comes to the culmination that we're here today when the governor arrives and obviously tells the Senate that they have done a phenomenal job and that the House lacked severely. Y'all were supposed to erupt with that. I don't know. Y'all didn't get that? But all of us have really come to not only value but respect the leadership of our governor. He is a person who has led with distinction, has shown great courage on the issues that matter the most. He cares about our kids, he cares about juvenile justice, and he cares about creating a future that is bright and prosperous for every Georgian. And most importantly, not only did he serve in Congress, but he also served in this body as a President Pro Tem, and I always love that. Please welcome the great governor of the state of Georgia, Nathan Deal.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation to come and speak very briefly to you tonight. I see the Lieutenant Governor is still spunky, even at this hour of a 40-day session. I want to start out by simply thanking you for the courtesy and cooperation you have shown to me and to my staff during this session, and to commend you for what you have done. As I told the House just a few minutes ago, I believe that this session of the General Assembly will probably be marked as one of the most significant sessions in the recent history of this state. You have made some very difficult but courageous votes on issues that are important to our citizens. You've given them opportunities that would not have been their opportunity had you not taken the stands that you have on important issues. There are so many of those issues, I won't attempt to enumerate any of them. You know what they are. You have been through the process. I just simply wanted to tell you that I'm proud of what you've done, and I congratulate you. And during the summer and during the break, some of you will be working on various committees and other undertakings that will lead to legislation coming next year. If my office can provide you with any assistance in that regard, please feel free to call on us. And I hope you will all have an enjoyable break between now and the session next year. Thank you for having me this evening. Well done, Governor. Good.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 40th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate adopt the Conference Committee report on HB 515.
Read the caption.
Committee of Conference report on House Bill 515. The Committee of Conference on House Bill 515 recommends that both the Senate and House of Representatives recede from their positions and that the attached Committee of Conference substitute to House Bill 515 be adopted. Respectfully submitted, Senator Miller of the 40th and others. Mr. President, a bill to be entitled, an act to incorporate the City of Tucker in DeKalb County, to provide for a charter for the City of Tucker, to provide for incorporation boundaries and powers of the city, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 40th to present the Conference Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for your favorable consideration to create the City of Tucker. The border changes are they now have a Walmart, they now have a QT, and they now have 500 more people than when I left the chamber before. With that, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 41st to speak to the Conference Committee report.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, first I'd like to thank people that you've got to know, Frank Alban, Michelle Pincava, and tons of other people from the Tucker community who have come out to talk to you about their community and their area and their hopes and dreams. I want to also say that the senator from the 42nd brought forth something that I hope that you will look at, creating a process for these cities to be created. In the old days, these used to be legislative delegation decisions by local delegations. They're not that way anymore, and that causes additional problems. And it can cause problems in Cherokee and other counties. We need to have some better processes. You know, the La Vista Hills, the 520 that just passed, has a good amount of area in my district. But I was given no input
offered no consideration on concerns I've had. And in the Tucker area where I grew up, community that I represent most of the city, of course, we saw a long discussion in the House that set lines, and yet the lines were changed here. And again, the entire structure of the city changed because it changes revenue. It changes people not only in the center of the 40th district situation, but I will now be in this area that might be incorporated as Tucker. It changes what kind of community I live in and how the tax base is. So I hope that we will go to a process that makes sure everybody's included, that we really look at the county as a whole. In DeKalb County, we've had several cities created over the last years, and it is hard to believe we have not put in place, either general law or through local legislation, something that addresses the liability cost of pension and other things to police or other employees that are now being taken over by the cities, that they may not be obligated to pay the county for underfunded pension liabilities and other things. We could literally drive large metro counties into bankruptcy and insolvency, which will hurt the entire metro area unless we look at this in a more holistic way. And whether or not the county is run by Democrats or Republicans, we look at the health of the county as a whole when we go through this process. I urge for your support to 515, and I'll yield the well.
The senators move that we adopt the conference committee report of HB 515. All of those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no, and the secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 17th will stand by. On the adoption of the conference committee report, the yeas are 43 and the nays are 4. And the conference committee report has been adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 17th.
President, I move that the Senate agree to the House amendment to the city substitute on House Bill 131.
Read the caption.
House Bill 131 by Representative Dickerson of the 113th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-2-751.4 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated related to policies in public schools, prohibiting bullying so as to prohibit cyberbullying, to provide for related matters, to provide for short title, to provide for an effective date, and for to repeal conflicting laws and for other purposes. Mr. President, Representative Dudgeon of the 25th and others offered the following amendment, amending the Senate committee substitute to House Bill 131 by striking from lines 11 and 12 the following: include an act through the use of electronic communication, by inserting after system on line 32 the following: the term also applies to acts of cyberbullying which occur through the use of electronic communication, whether or not such electronic communication originated on school property or within school equipment, if the electronic communication is one directed specifically at students or at school personnel, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 17th. Speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 131 we took up the other day is on cyberbullying. We made several amendments. They agreed to those, but they changed a couple grammatical things, and they also added electronic communications for cyberbullying. Mr. President, if there's no questions, I yield the well.
No questions, Senator. The Senator has moved that we agree to the House amendment to the Senate substitute to House Bill 131. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the motion, the yeas are 46, the nays are 2, and the Senate has agreed to the House amendment to the Senate substitute. Chair recognizes Senator from the 51st.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 169.
I don't know what happened. Chair recognizes Senator 51st. I'm sorry, Secretary Reed.
Senate Bill 169 by Senator Gucci, the 51st, and others, a bill to be entitled, an act to amend Title 32 of the OCGA relating to highways, bridges, and ferries so as to revise what constitutes part of the state highway system, to provide for an appropriation of funds to the Department of Transportation, to provide for a notice of the disposition of property, to amend Title 40 of the OCGA relating to motor vehicles and traffic so as to provide for submission of electronic accident reports by law enforcement agencies, to provide for related matters to repeal and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House Committee on Transportation offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 169, a bill to be entitled, an act to amend Title 32 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated related to highways, bridges, and ferries so as to revise what constitutes part of the state highway system, to provide for appropriation of funds by the Department of Transportation, to provide for notice in the disposition of property, to provide for the determination of market value of property acquired by the department, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator 51st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, Senate Bill 169 is the housekeeping bill for DOT. We passed earlier in the session. It went over to the House. They made two changes to it. One was at our request. Section 6, they put some language in there defining further the golf cart language that was in our bill last year in 2014. Section 7 was the correction of the word may from shall. The sheriffs are good with this. It passed in the House with only 2 votes, and I would encourage your consideration to vote for this tonight. Mr. President, I'll yield the will.
Senators move, the Senate agree to the House substitute to SB 169. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no, and Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 49th will stand by. 49th. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 44 and the nays are 3, and we've agreed. Chair recognizes Senator from the 49th. 49th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House amendment to the Senate substitute for HB 372.
HB 372, read the caption.
House Bill 372 by Representative Coomer the 14th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 20-2-2068.2 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated related to a facilities fund for charter schools so as to provide additional requirements for charter school to operate that has passed state facility inspections and received a certificate of occupancy, to provide for short title, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Representative Coomer the 14th offers the following amendment: to amend the Senate Committee on Education and Youth substitute to House Bill 372 by inserting after title on line 4 the following: to amend Code Section 20-3-250.3 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to educational institutions exempted from application of part so as to revise a provision relating to non-profit colleges, to amend Article 31 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to charter schools, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 49th present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 372 is the charter school provision that extends that no undue or unnecessary or unusual restrictions can be put on charter schools that are not put on other institutions. If there are no questions, I'd be happy to yield the well.
You do have a question. Chair recognizes the Senator from the 54th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will Senator yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator, in the amendment, the House amendment, there's language being struck talking about prior to July 1, 1989. What is that impacting? What is the net effect of that?
Those were referring to schools that are already in existence.
Before that time?
Before that
and
date.
so it would be schools that have been created after that time that would now be eligible?
That's correct.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Mr. President.
No further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The Senator has moved that the Senate agree to the House amendment to the Senate substitute to HB 372. All of those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 21st, stand by. 21st. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46 and the nays are 0. This bill, I'm Rex constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator 21st.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House amendment to Senate substitute HB 225.
I was waving at you. I'm sorry. I just slipped down on
Secretary will read.
House Bill 225 by Representative Powell of the 32nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Titles 36 and 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to local government and motor vehicles and traffic respectively, so as to provide that for definitions to require for all for-hire drivers to obtain a for-hire license, endorsement before driving for hire, to require that all for-hire drivers have certain insurance, to provide for penalties, to provide for related matters, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the House offers the following amendment to amend the Senate Science and Technology Committee substitute to House Bill 225 by inserting after effective dates on line 18 and for legislative intent by striking 2 on line 57 and inserting in lieu thereof 3, by striking lines 220 and 221 and inserting in lieu thereof the following: the minimum amount of commercial liability insurance prescribed by the state law, by striking lines 409 and through 434 and inserting in lieu thereof the following: 2, on and after July 1st, 2017, an owner of each for-hire vehicle prior to commencing operations in the state and annually thereafter shall obtain a for-hire license and from the department and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 21st to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I bring before you House Bill 225. It's the Uber bill that we passed last week. And the Public Safety Chair in the House, the representative from the 32nd, made one slight change. At the request of OPB and the Department of Revenue, they asked for a change in the tax provision of the bill. And after further discussion, it was agreed that the effective date of those sections of the bill should be changed from July 1st, 2016 to July 1st, 2017. This gives OPB, the Department of Revenue, GMA, ACCG, and the transportation network companies a chance to work this out on their tax program. Thank you. I yield the well.
You have a question, Senator.
Yes.
Chair recognizes Senator on the 54th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will Senator yield?
Yes.
Senator, on the House amendment from the committee on line 4 and 5, it includes language saying the minimum amount of commercial liability insurance prescribed by state law. Can you tell me? I don't have the bigger bill. Can you tell me what is requiring the minimum amount of commercial liability insurance prescribed by state law?
I think it's 50 and 100. 50,100.
I got the numbers. My question is does that specify any particular?
Well, the Uber and Lyft have $1 million policy when they have in
periods 2 and 3.
Right, in periods 2 and 3.
Does this requirement address period 1?
It does not.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Mr. President.
I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 42nd.
And, well, will the senator yield?
Yes.
I'm looking on line 54. This subsection shall be repealed by operation of law on July 1st, 2017. What does that apply to exactly?
Well, what that does is right now they're going to use the current tax policy that they have. And by 2016, they were supposed to, that in the original bill, this gives them till 2017 to work on that and get together with the transportation networking companies, ACCG, GMA, OPB, Department of Revenue, and work out a plan. The other thing we do, we sunset it on the same day, so this should put some pressure on them to get an agreement on their tax policy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there are no further questions.
Thank you. I urge your favorable consideration.
The senator has moved that the Senate agree to the House amendment to the Senate substitute to HB 225. All of those senators in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. And the secretary will unlock the machine. Senator from the 45th will stand by. Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th. What purpose you rise?
Mr. President, is it not true that we're still waiting on Senate Bill 3, which is one of our priorities?
Yes, it is, Senator. You're absolutely right. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 48 and the nays are 4, and this bill having received its constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate agree to the House amendment to the Senate substitute to HB 72.
Read the caption.
House Bill 72 by Representative Willard of the 51st and others, a bill to be entitled, an act to amend Title 16 of Article 1 of Chapter 8 of Title 17 of Chapter 25 of Title 30 and Title 31 of the OCGA relating to crimes and offenses, general provisions for trial, protection of disabled adults and elder persons, and health respectively, and for other purposes. Mr. President, Representative Willard of the 51st offers the following amendment to the Senate Committee substitute on House Bill 72 by inserting after warrant on line 12 the following: to amend Code Section 24-12-21 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to disclosure of AIDS confidential information so as to change provisions relating to disclosure of such information under certain circumstances to provide for a procedure by inserting between lines 358 and 359 the following: Part 1A, Section 1A-1, and for other purposes. Mr. President, this completes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th. Present the bill.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. If you will recall, House Bill 72 is the bill dealing with senior citizens and white-collar crime that changed the RICO provisions. It has been amended twice. One of the amendments is from the senator from the 13 that combined his bill about people in a white hot car and being able to break into the car to rescue a person, which passed out of here, I think, unanimously. The third provision is an amendment from the chairman of the Judiciary Committee in the House, and this allows probate judges. Currently, the evidence code requires a Superior Court judge to conduct a hearing to admit evidence that someone has HIV/AIDS. This simply allows the probate judge, and this came at the bequest of probate judges across the state of Georgia who may have already contacted you, to review the evidence as part of the emergency process in Title 37 for an order to apprehend for a mentally ill person. And I agree with those amendments.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 18th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the Senator yield?
Yes, I will.
Senator, with regard to the provision concerning the probate court changes, isn't it true that the passage of this bill will allow the probate courts to move more quickly and efficiently to notify law officers and medical personnel when they must detain and handle people who have AIDS and who are about to be arrested or detained related to involuntary commitment proceedings?
Yes, sir. I believe you're exactly right. And the probate court judges wanted this. And I believe it eliminates about a 5-day process. And that was why they were expediting this for those types of people.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. I yield the will.
Thank you, Senator. The Senator has moved that the Senate agree to the House amendment to the Senate substitute to House Bill 72. All of those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. The Senate is going to take about a 15-minute break. We got a lot of work that's needing to be done and particularly negotiated. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 46 and the nays are 1. And this bill, MC Rex constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. We'll take a little 15-minute break and be back here at 10 o'clock.